History will record that the last significant act of the Rudd Prime Ministership was signing an $11 billion deal with Telstra that finally ensured that the nation's dominant telco would throw its considerable weight and client base behind the ambitious plan to roll out a national high-speed broadband network. History is also likely to record that the deal will be a big agent of change at Telstra, finally breaking from its past as a big phone utility and becoming a modern communications retailer. In the absence of a deal with the government and its infrastructure business NBN Co, Telstra hasn't really been able to say much about its future. But freed of those constraints, Telstra CEO David Thodey can now finally open up, as he did with me earlier this week. Well, David Thodey, the deal on the NBN is a non-binding heads of agreement. How much work has to be done to make it binding, and how much of a risk is it that it won't be?
Well, a few things there, Alan. Yes, it's a non-binding financial heads of agreement. I mean, it really is it's a very encouraging milestone in a very long process. I mean, it's been nearly 12 months of deep negotiations.
Encouraging milestone doesn't sound like a deal. The government was touting it as being, that's it, we've done the deal.
Yeah, well, let me explain. I mean, as you know, as a public listed company, to do a financial heads agreement, we took it very, very seriously. So there's a lot of detail in it, but the reason we're just being cautious about it and being non-binding is that there's so much work to be done, and we've got to go through regulatory reform and undertakings with the ACCC. We've got to look at the legislation. So in reality, it couldn't be anything more than that, but it is a significant milestone, and I say encouraging because it's going the right way. But I don't want you in any way to give the impression it's not very, very important.
So you've ended up with a number that you've announced on the weekend of $11 billion.
Yep.
What number did you enter the negotiations with in your mind?
We've been very consistent for a number of months.
$11 billion?
I just said we've been very consistent for a number of months. We've not moved very much at all.
So you really, throughout the whole time, you didn't move?
No, I said we haven't moved very much at all.
Very much?
It's a negotiation, Alan, so of course we've moved slightly, but we've been in this ballpark, right from pretty much day one.
So you're satisfied? You're happy with the way it worked out?
We would not be here today unless we believed this was the best alternative for our shareholders and for the company. I mean, we take our responsibility very, very seriously. And remember, we've got to take it to shareholders, and it's going to be all open, and everyone's going to be able to see exactly what the numbers are.
And there'll be an expert poring over it as well.
And an expert poring over it. So, look, we want to be as transparent as possible. Well, we will be transparent, I should say, as we go forward, because this is such a big transaction for us.
And when do you think you will go to shareholders with it?
Well, it'll be early next year, and let me explain just the process. We hope to be able to work through most of the things to give some indication by the AGM in November. But by the time we've got an independent assessment come in, so it's really validated, then we get it out to shareholders, give them enough time to look at it. It'll probably be late first quarter next year. So you can see how difficult it is. It's not a straightforward process.
And do you have any reason for thinking that the new Prime Minister will bring any different view of the matter?
Absolutely none. I mean, this has been very well canvassed within caucus, and I'm sure that we will just keep going. I mean, we don't have any reason to think other than anything else.
You've been CEO for 13 months. I guess you've been on hold pretty well, in a holding pattern while you're negotiating the NBN to some extent. To what extent does the NBN now free you, and what does it free you to do? What's the plan now?
Well, Alan, you're right. I mean, the negotiations have been very time-consuming, and I think what's significant about it is addressing this NBN and the regulatory issues that are around it potentially. I mean, for years we've had regulation on us, and the great opportunity we have now is to put that behind us and move forward. I mean, we're about serving customers, building innovative products, and really being out there to make a difference, and that's what we want to focus on. So I think it's a tremendous opportunity for Telstra going forward.
But to what extent does the culture of the company have to change? It's been an engineering company to some extent, network owner. How will you change the culture, and to what?
Yeah, well, I think you're right. I mean, it's a great engineering culture. I mean, it's been its great strength for many, many years, but we've got to become a sales and marketing-led company, customers at the centre of everything we do. So, yeah, we've got a big cultural change to go through. I think we've started. I mean, even this year we have a lot of focus on improving customer service. Even when I first came into the job, I said I would be the advocate for the customer. I've tried to be, and I think the company's moving, but it takes time. Because we've got to simplify the business, we've got to reorient it to the customer, we've got to find ways to delight customers, and that's what we're going to focus on. But I don't underestimate. This will probably take another 3, 4, 5 years, but it's another stage for the company, and that's what is so exciting and gets me out of bed every morning.
Is it time for Telstra to get on the acquisition trail rather than just organic changes within the company? Do you need to make acquisitions, takeovers, in order to bolt on new businesses?
Well, I think we've got to consider that. Remember, the heart of our business here is in Australia, and it's around core communications products, mobiles, your fixed line service and broadband. Now T-Box, which is our IPTV solution. So we'll keep expanding our product portfolio out, but there are new opportunities coming along that may provide opportunities for us to do acquisitions. It'll be more about acquiring capability rather than sort of bolt-ons. I mean, it's as the industry changes, the needs of customers change. For example, in the home, the digital home, what's that going to look like in the next 3 to 4 years? How can you make it easier to connect your video and your broadband and your telephony? Those sorts of things are where we're looking. And so acquisitions could be on the...
What sort of capabilities do you think Telstra needs that it doesn't have?
Well, as I said, in the digital home, there may be some integration product that we want to acquire to help us provide a real end-to-end solution. Or in the enterprise spaces, we look at things like cloud computing, which is a little bit of a technical term, but just doing your computing out of the network. We might find companies that can help us do that.
Just on some financial specifics of the future with the NBN, I just wonder, it seems to me on the one hand, you've got possible lower margins and lower market share, because that's the whole aim,
right,
is to get your market. This is, I'm talking of fixed line telephony here.
Yes.
Your market share 75% or something is probably going to come down. Your margins as a reseller of NBN capacity as opposed to your own network probably will be lower. But on the other hand, there's less capital expenditure because you're not running your own network.
Yeah, and less operational OPEX as well.
So less cost, and you're getting this cash out of the government and the NBN. So as you sit here this week reviewing the deal, what's the net benefit of the deal?
Well, we will be putting a lot of this information out once we get to shareholders about the future dynamics of the business. But the way you characterise is right, because we've had a long-term investment in the copper network. Now it's over 100 years old. As we sell services, the margins that are very high. As we have to buy the fibre and move across, and as people compete, there will be a change in the business. That's what the great opportunity is, and I think that's what you're referring to before. As long as we've got the cash to go and do these new things and create new businesses or extend businesses we've got today, that's what we've got to do, and that's what I get so excited about. It's probably finally sort of, I won't say unleashed, but sort of freed us up to do some of these things. And now, of course, the margins will be different, but maybe the return on equity sort of could be about the same because you put less equity in. We can do things a little bit differently. And they're the things we're modelling right now. And we think there's a bright future for us.
What level of fixed line telephony market share do you think you can defend? It's currently 75. Can you hang on to 50% market share or what?
I'd like to think we can do that. I mean, we'd like to do a little bit more, but I think your point's right, that as you go through in this transition, as people migrate off copper to fibre, it'll be a very competitive world, and we probably wouldn't hold 76%. But I'm not as concerned about it. We're going to try and hold our good share. It's about how I build product on top of that and give the consumer a great experience, because I think that can be a real differentiator, both in terms of the way we service the customer, but the add-on product around it. I mean, you just think about how difficult it is sometimes to keep your broadband service going at home today. How can we make that easier for people and really make it a compelling
But add-on products are kind of not quite pie in the sky, but they're things that may or may not happen. I mean, your business now is providing phone calls, internet connection, and you get 55% margin from your phone calls, I think, roughly, and your 40% margin from your broadband. Is it fair to say that your telephony market margin will probably fall to something like the broadband margin?
Well, firstly,
when you're selling it on the NBN.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, the makeup and the whole dynamics of the business does change. Where you're getting you only get the same level of profitability from some of that core, telephony service. But what I'm saying is that therefore we've got to build new businesses that will have a different EBITDA, but the actual
like what? What new businesses?
Well, I was talking about digital home, talking about cloud computing, and there's a large number of things in the digital media area. You can look how our growth in China has been. We are the largest employer, Australian-based company, working in China today. We have 5,900 people. So there's lots of opportunities for us to grow to, and we will be talking more about that because that is the future of the company, and it's an exciting future.
Thanks for joining us, David Thodey.
Thank you, Alan.